Alright then, what is going on, guys and girls? Welcome back to the GolfMagic channel and welcome back to a very exciting equipment review video. First of all, if you guys are new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below to keep up to date with all our equipment reviews, challenges, tour news, instructional pieces and much more to help you guys with your game for all of 2021. Now today, on the 19th of January, TaylorMade have released their new SIM2 product range, and this is from metal woods, drivers, fairway woods, hybrids and irons. So, the whole range. What I've got with me today is the TaylorMade SIM2 driver and the TaylorMade SIM2 Max driver. There is another additional driver in this product range, the SIM2 Max D, which is more of a draw bias club, which I'll talk about in the technology section of this video. In this video, I'm going to go into the looks of each driver, how it's different from the original Sim, talk about the technology and what's been introduced in this new range, and then give it an extensive hit on the launch monitor at the Swing Suite at Cromehurst Golf Club. This is going to be a long video and it's going to be packed with information, so you guys should have a pretty good understanding of which SIM2 driver you should go for at the end of the video. These drivers, I've heard, are the best performing drivers TaylorMade have ever released. So, without further ado, let's get right into the TaylorMade SIM2 driver. So you guys join me here on the south coast on a very cold day. My hands are very cold, but luckily I've got the TaylorMade SIM2 driver to heat them up. First things first, let's talk about the looks of these brand new drivers. So I've got both the SIM2 and the SIM2 Max D here with me today, and let's just go a little bit of a deep dive into the looks and how this compares to other drivers and the Sim driver from last year. What I can tell instantly looking down at the club is obviously they've introduced a new blue colour scheme, which is an additional to the kind of original colour scheme that Sim had. So it is covered with carbon, absolutely covered with carbon everywhere, and this is obviously to save weight. But looking down at the club to begin with, you can tell that obviously the carbon crown has been increased everywhere, and they have introduced that blue colour scheme across the crown as well. So in addition to what the Sim looked like before, they've added that blue and made it look super modern, which it's up to you if you guys like that. I think drivers in 2021, they have to look a little bit cool. There's a classical feel and there's also something that needs some sort of modernistic approach, and TaylorMade have obviously done that. They have the grey and the black approach that they've had prevalent in many drivers all the way from the M2, and they've really added to this with that blue colour scheme. The 6-layered carbon crown is nothing too new in terms of what the original Sim had, but in terms of the design, the main thing that I would note here is just the colour, but when comparing it to the previous Sim, there's not too much difference in terms of the actual shaping of it. Now going on to the actual face of the club, I can see that the twist face is still there in terms of what's comparing it to the original Sim, which is perfect, but what I noticed is that the speed injection is no longer on the face of the club. It's now on the toe of the club, and just the toe only, which is quite interesting, and I'll get onto that in the technology section as to why they've done this. Going on to the actual head of the club, so the most vast change, there's a few things to note here. Obviously you can see that there is that blue colour scheme there, but there is something new, and it says forged aluminium on the backring of the club. So that looks like the brand new piece of technology for the SIM2 driver. So I'll make sure to cover that in the technology section. But just looking at this as well, you can see that the carbon covers all of it, and it looks like there is a new carbon sole to this club. It does look like it's a lot lighter, and I think I will get onto that in the technology section as well. This feels like they've been able to save a lot of weight in this club too, which is quite interesting. I've seen quite a lot of opinions online with the leaks of this club saying it's not very good looking, and I feel like the pictures didn't do it justice, because in comparison to the original Sim, which everyone loved with the colour scheme and the design, this I think looks better. It looks flashier. You can say it looks a bit more commercialised, but what TaylorMade have done really well is they've still managed to make it look professional. As well as this, they have still kept the speed pocket, which is nothing new towards the Sim, but there is a new weighting on the club as well on the head, which is quite interesting. I haven't seen that before, and I'm sure there's a reason why they've done this, maybe to adjust to people's swings and just kind of cater towards everyone's game. So for me, I feel like they've done really well in improving upon the original Sim driver. Everyone knows that the original Sim driver was an exceptional club, probably one of the best drivers TaylorMade have ever released generationally. It was really difficult for them to actually improve anything with that club, but I think what they've done here is they've really just added a few little things to the driver from looks alone to make it look a little bit more impressive. The blue for me is just an additional colour that makes it look a little more standouty in comparison to the Sim. The Sim was still a bit grey, but I do like the additional blue colour, and Putting it into the forged aluminium backring that I can see here as well, I understand why they've done that, because it really puts note as to this is the new piece of technology, the blue bit. This is the thing that everyone's going to talk about. Comparing the Sim Max to the Sim Max D, are there going to be any noticeable differences? Well, you can see here, there really isn't. They look more or less exactly the same. Obviously, the only thing that I can really note of them is that it seems that the Sim2 just says Sim2 Max on it. Apart from that, they do look identical. Looking down at both clubs, again, I really can't see too much difference with them. Perhaps that the Sim2 Max may be slightly deeper of a face, but apart from that, you really can't notice any of the difference, which is an interesting one for me because in previous reviews, such as the Callaway Epics and the Ping G425, I said it was interesting and it was good to sometimes have some sort of difference between the ranges. But when TaylorMade have got it so right in the original Sim line, and for the design that is so exceptional with this new release, I don't think it needs to be that different because they've done so well in this design. I wouldn't want them to change it because if they changed the Sim2 to the Sim2 Max, people would say, oh no, I want the Sim2 Max to look like the Sim2 because it's such a top class design. So I understand why they've done this, because if you want to have the Sim2 design, but you have the playability of the Sim2 Max, that's why they've kept it the same, so that everyone can have the same design and show it off to their friends and not be unhappy with it. So this makes a lot of sense. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about the design so far of the new SIM2 drivers. I think because the original Sim ticked all the boxes, it was difficult for them to make such a vast change as to the design of the Sim2. So I think what they've done here is spot on, because I wouldn't want them to completely redesign this club because the original Sim was so perfect. And what they've done here is just made some little differences and made it still look like an amazing club. But why have they done these incremental differences? Why have they introduced a forged aluminium backring? Why have they just done what they've done for this year's release? Let's jump into the technology section of this video where I can talk about the differences between the Sim2, the Sim2 Max and the Sim2 Max D, what they've introduced in this new Sim2 range and how that can help your game. And also I managed to talk to a few members of staff at TaylorMade to give you guys a better understanding of what these clubs are supposed to bring you in comparison to previous models and how these should help your game. Let's jump back to the studio where we can get really into the technology section of this video. So with this new product range from TaylorMade, the Sim2, you may be sitting there wondering what actually is different in comparison to the original Sim. What TaylorMade have done here is use this opportunity to build upon the Sim. So let's compare it to a McLaren or anything in F1, where year on year they tamper with their cars and try and improve them. It's because they're already perfect, they're already going at an optimal level, but what they're trying to do is make some little tweaks, little adjustments to try and get even more out of this driver. TaylorMade have acknowledged how well they did with the Sim last year, and what they want to do is put a driver out that was similar to that, but have some little differences from looks and technology to try and improve it, and that's exactly what they've done. So that's why, like an F1, or even like if you bought a new phone, what they've put out is similar to last year, but they've put some little things in there to improve it, and they are as follows. The carbon crown panel, although not completely new, this is a 6-layered carbon crown panel that maintains the low CG in the club. This is extremely light, and by using this extremely light structure, they're allowed to have that weight and reposition it across the club for optimal results. As mentioned in the looks part of this video, I saw that the speed injected port for the club was different to the original Sim. On the original Sim there were 2 ports on the face of the club, and now it's just in the toe. And with that, they have a machine milled face that is new to the club as well. Why do they have this? This is to be more precise and optimise the fastest parts of the face, so make the fastest driver of 2020 even faster. The front weight that I noticed on the look section of this video is actually called the TPS front weighting. And what is that? Basically, that is to optimise the swing weight for each customer that buys the Sim2 driver. This is because each golfer has a different swing weight in regards to the custom shaft and head options. By adjusting and having the adjustability for this TPS front weight, this means that you can get optimal data while only changing a little bit for the club. Similar to the crown of the club, the sole of the club is also carbon fibre, which means it is super light. This means that they could use the weight that they originally have on this club to reposition around the club and make sure you get the best possible results you can get from this new Sim2 driver. This carbon sole only weighs 12 grams, so extremely light. Now the main new piece of technology that they've introduced in the new TaylorMade SIM2 driver is the forged aluminium backring. You may be wondering, what is this and how is it going to help your game? Now the forged aluminium backring means that they can really fine tune that low CG and high MOI that makes an amazing driver. They had this originally in the Sim, but now this means that they can do this even better. But what does all this mean? You've just gone a few minutes into the technology section and you're not sure what all this stuff, what this jargon is going to actually do to your game if you purchase this driver in comparison to the old Sim. Basically, this is going to be forgiveness. TaylorMade didn't need to improve, or probably couldn't improve, the ball speeds that they had already in the sim. The sim produced exceptional ball speeds, faster than any other driver, so they didn't need to build upon that. But what they could build upon is the forgiveness, and that's what they've done across all 3 models in the SIM2. The SIM2 is said to have a much higher MOI for all the clubs, but it'd still be able to maintain what they're supposed to do across all 3 models. For instance, the SIM2, not the SIM2 Max, is the lower spin model, but it still has an exceptionally high MOI, which means that it's extremely forgiving, but you still get a tall penetrating flight, and that's why all the professional golfers such as Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods are all using this driver. The SIM2 Max isn't that much different from the original sim, but it will have slightly higher spin, so about 200 to 300 RPM, and it has a heavier back weighting on the club, meaning that it's more forgiveness and you're much more likely to hit it straight down the middle. The SIM2 Max D, as you can guess, is a draw bias as to the SIM2 Max, but it is the most forgiving out of all 3 models. So if you are that person who is maybe a bit slower of a swing speed and struggles with that slice, that'll be the one for you. So you can see here that TaylorMade have really built upon the success that they had on the sim and made it just a little bit better by the new technology, the looks, and just having many options that you can tamper with the club and adjust it for your swing. But how will this correlate and transition to your actual results? Let's jump to Crowhurst Golf Club at the Swing Suite, where I can really give some detailed analysis to the SIM2 and the SIM2 Max and see which one could be right for your game. Let's jump over to the Swing Suite. Alright guys, so here I am at the Swing Suite at Crowhurst Golf Club. This is one of the best practice facilities in the southeast of England in the UK. Obviously now it is national lockdown in the UK, so you may not be able to use it anytime soon, but in the summer, this is the exact facility that you guys want to use to fine-tune your game. It's TrackMan and much more, so if you are in the UK, definitely check it out. Right now, I've got this SIM2, and I've also got the SIM2 Max I'm going to test out here. I'm going to put it through its paces, get the numbers for the club head speed, ball speed, and see how forgiving these 2 drivers really are. First up, let's do the SIM2. I've got this de-lofted slightly. I've got it in 9 degrees, but it is 2 degrees lower, so it's at 7 degrees. Pretty low loft, but let's see how I get on. Alright, so that was the SIM2. Now moving on to the SIM2 Max, which is obviously going to be a little bit more forgiving, but we'll see how the numbers of the SIM2 Max compare to the standard SIM2. I've got this in the same shaft and it's actually 9 degrees and it's not de-lofted, so I'd expect a little bit higher of launch, but let's see how I get on and how forgiving this driver really is. Alright, so I've now hit these 2 drivers pretty extensively, the SIM2 and the SIM2 Max. I used the same shaft in both so I could get pretty average numbers and consistent numbers across both driver sets on the TrackMan. It's interesting because, as I said in the technology section, the main thing that TaylorMade are trying to improve in this product launch in comparison to the original sim is forgiveness. The original sim was so successful and the professionals and all amateurs thought it may be one of the best drivers TaylorMade have ever released. So it's difficult for TaylorMade to make such a vast improvement with the SIM2. For me, I love the TaylorMade sim, so when testing this, I was a bit skeptical as to how much they could improve it, but the forgiveness was the main thing that I noticed. Here at the Swing Suite, I'm able to get a lot of data on TrackMan, and the main thing that I could take away from both drivers, the SIM2 and the SIM2 Max, is that I was hitting the fairway more or less every time. I wasn't really having a bad shot. Previously, I've reviewed the Ping LST and the Ping Max, and I said it's pretty similar for the Ping G425 Max. It was a fairway finder, but what I found with the SIM2 is that wherever I hit it off the face, I hit quite a few shots out of the heel and quite a few shots out of the toe as well. But the way in which the technology worked, especially with the twist face, is that they were all hitting the fairway. As you can see with some of the images I'm picking up now, on the TrackMan, you can see that my dispersion was pretty accurate. I was hitting the fairway pretty much every single time with the SIM2. The SIM2 Max is supposed to be for the slightly worse player, for the mid to high handicap players. What I noticed with this is, to be honest, they feel pretty similar. They feel more or less exactly the same, but the data showed that this was getting a little bit higher spin. Am I surprised by that? Not really. That's what you kind of do expect with a model that is suited towards the mid to high handicap players. A little bit higher spin and pretty similar forgiveness, maybe even more forgiveness. But what I noticed with both of these models is that in terms of the forgiveness level, they are pretty similar, which for the SIM2 especially, for a model that can suit any player, for a model that the PGA Tour professionals, the likes of Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods are going to be using, it's quite interesting because this has such a high forgiveness threshold that makes me think this is suited towards anyone. This could be suited towards someone who's off +2, someone who's off 32, which is quite interesting for me. In terms of distance, I know this is something that TaylorMade always put across, that they are massive on ball speed. You're going to get amazing numbers. And I'm going to say right now that there were other drivers that I've hit, notably the Ping G425 LST, that did go further. As you can see with the averages here, this one is a few yards less, but the feel and the actual results that I'm getting off this, I'm still getting over 300 yards pretty easily for this driver. My swing speed is a little bit down as well today. Don't know why, who knows, but with this, my results I'm getting is better than any other driver I've ever tested. The Ping G425 LST, although it was a little bit further, my dispersion was all over the place. I was zigzagging back and forth, misses left, misses right. Here, the only miss that I was really getting was high and right, and that was still hitting the fairway. And the high and right miss is completely down to my swing speed and the way in which I swing the golf club. Nothing to do with this driver. In fact, the reason why this club and those shots were hitting the fairway is because of how good this club performs for whatever you hit it on the face, out of the toe or out of the heel. So for me, the SIM2 is a club that could suit any type of player and makes me think that the SIM2 Max is for someone who probably is a little bit worse, but then the SIM2, I'm thinking any sort of person can play this. If you're looking for a bit more spin, then yes, maybe go towards the SIM2 Max. But it seems that, especially for the SIM2, the standard model, this could suit any type of player. These two models, the SIM2 and the SIM2 Max, came in the hazardous 6.0 low spin shaft and also the Tensai Blue. So two exceptional shafts, some premium shafts as well, and that's why it produced such good numbers. The matchup of the SIM2 head and these two shafts means that you can get really good results. The Hazardous X shaft that I was using, the 6.0, is a low spin model, and that's why, as you can see, I was getting lowish spin for the SIM2, but then I would assume with the SIM2 Max, the reason why I was getting a little bit higher spin is just because of this club head and it being suited towards someone who needs a little bit more forgiveness and a little bit of help getting it up in the air. So it makes a lot of sense. As you can see, I'm really impressed with these drivers, and I think it's going to be hard to beat the SIM2 especially in terms of an all-around hybrid for 2021. It provides forgiveness, distance, exceptional feel, and in my opinion, it's a pretty good looking golf club. So, for my final opinion and to give it a GolfMagic medal, let's jump back home so I can give you my final thoughts on the price, when it's getting released, and how I think this club will compare to other brands such as Callaway and Ping. Before we jump back to the studio, let's see how far the SIM2 driver really goes. As you can see, I'm at the TrackMan at Swing Suite here, and I'm going to see how far I can hit the brand new TaylorMade SIM2 driver. So what are my final thoughts on the TaylorMade SIM2 driver range? For me, I feel that, and I'm also really impressed by the way in which TaylorMade have put forward this product. Sometimes you feel that a lot of golf brands aren't that honest in the way in which they release products. They say it's going to be amazing distance, amazing speed, all that kind of stuff, and you're going to get an extra 40 or 50 yards. We kind of all know that's not true, but what TaylorMade have done here is, first of all, acknowledge the fact that their TaylorMade Sim driver, the original one, was so successful, and just put it plainly and say, yeah, this one's pretty similar, but it's just what needed to be improved from that one has been improved. They didn't feel like they needed to do a massive redesign, do anything, because they knew that the previous model they released was good. With my testing, I used a Project X 6.0 70-gram shaft. It was good, and I took it out on the course a few times, but then I actually changed it up to a shaft that does bode a bit better for me, so the hazardous handcrafted yellow shaft in 6.5. I took that to Gray's Golf, and I got a lot better data in terms of dispersion and distance as well, which goes to show how important shaft fitting is for you. So if you are in the market for any drivers, make sure you get tested and make sure you get your exact data before making your purchase. The TaylorMade SIM2 driver range comes to retail on the 19th of February, but it is available to pre-order now. And the drivers come in at an RRP of £449. So, not a bad price. The Callaway Epics were at £499, so this is 10% cheaper. And for me, this far outperforms the Callaway Epic range. It's so much better for every single asset. It's pretty similar to Ping, with Ping being £10 cheaper, and obviously the Cobras are a lot cheaper at £369. I think this is a pretty fair price, but I would understand if you are already using the TaylorMade Sim, to shell out another £449 will be quite expensive. And I think what TaylorMade are telling you to here is maybe not do that, because they're saying that the TaylorMade Sim is still such a great driver and this is just an improvement. So it's up to you guys what you want from a driver. If you already have the Sim but think, oh, I need more forgiveness, then it could be the one for you. But TaylorMade have said that the original Sim is so good, so yeah, it's up to you guys. For me, I'm going to give the TaylorMade SIM2 driver range nothing else than a GolfMagic gold medal. For me, this range so far has been the absolute product of the year, and in terms of every single asset that a driver can put forwards, this hits the spot. If you guys are interested in the SIM2 driver or the SIM2 Max driver, I would recommend trying both out. They are quite similar, but they obviously provide a little bit different data, so try them both out if you're in the market for either one, whatever your handicap range. I think it'd be really interesting to now put up these drivers, the ones that have been released, against each other. So if you guys want me to put up the TaylorMade SIM2 driver, notably the main one, so the SIM2, against the Callaway Epic Speed, leave a like down below and I'll release that very, very soon. If you guys are new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and leave a like to let me know how you guys enjoyed this video. Do you guys like the new looks of TaylorMade Sim2, or are you going to be sticking with your driver that you have right now? If you guys have any further questions about the TaylorMade Sim2 driver range, let me know down in the comments, because I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll see you guys at the next video.